Surprise, we're back to Yakuza. This is going to be the last one before we take a break for who knows how long. These ones are a lot. They're a lot of work, and we don't want to overdo it if we haven't already.
And while it is nice to have a break, because I do love these games, and it feels something like home to be doing this game, after watching the gameplay, which many of you guys will watch, it's like just under 2.5 hours. It's a lot.
Should we just start with the out-of-context summary then?
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, we meet a pistachio personified. Someone's dog is vomiting. And Kiryu really needs to teach Haruka how to run. She does not do it correctly.
Yes.
Thank you for coming back from our replay reviews. My name is Leah.
And my name is Kathy.
We are two friends who are here to replay, review, and analyze your favorite video games. And since Kathy has never seen the games before, it helps me view them through her fresh eyes, almost like I'm discovering them again for the first time.
We hope it'll be a similar experience for you. Chapter 1, Letter of Blood.
So we're in early 1980s Kamurocho. We follow a detective, I think, into a building where we see Kazuma shooting a man who says, "You lying dog, though I die, we live on." The detective then runs to the dying man who asks him to save his child, which he does.
3 minutes into this game and he slaps a woman to get her to calm down? I am livid.
That's what I was waiting for you to say.
Yeah, we talked about this many times in the first game and Kiwami. The amount of slapping females is not acceptable, you guys.
It's a bit much.
Don't be doing that to get her attention. There's so many other ways you could do it. Instead, you just go to, like, physical abuse. Slap.
At least take it down a notch and just, like, shake her shoulders, you know? Snap her out of it in a less abusive fashion, if we can. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We learned that those events were about 20 years ago, and then we're back to December 14th, 2006. We see a man getting kicked out of Stardust, but then we cut pretty quickly to Kashiwagi in his Millennium Tower office, now patriarch of the Kazuma family. He's informed of the Stardust incident we just witnessed, but says to leave it alone. There's no telling which spark could ignite a war. So it sounds like there's trouble brewing with the Omi Alliance.
It always comes back to the Omi Alliance.
And then on the lower level of the tower, a man on the phone says, "It's been over 20 years. We've been waiting for this." The man on the other side of the phone says, "Get those fireworks ready." And they have a common goal, which is Kamurocho in flames.
One, I miss Kashiwagi. Like, that man has barely aged. So it's great seeing him. But I also find it kind of weird when he was like, "Oh, what would Kiryu do?" And in terms of, like, all this turf war. And it's not like he doesn't have experience, but I'm wondering, why do people value Kiryu so high up? And why is Kamurocho still such a hot target?
Yeah, I don't really get it either. And that was one of the issues we had in the last game. Like, what has Kiryu really done besides Yakuza 0? We see a few scenes from the last game, and Kiryu wakes up, and it was just a nightmare. Haruka and Kiryu are still living together, and it's been 1 year since the last game, so they're heading to the cemetery to pay respects.
Of course, his remaining impression of Yumi is just a slow-mo of her chest as he moves back to her face, which is so annoying.
He's just looking at the tattoo, Kathy. Just admiring the tattoo.
Anyways, this is the part where Haruka runs out of the room.
Yeah.
It's like a full extension of her knee rotation.
We both at the same time were like, why is she running like that?
Yeah.
It was great.
It's weird.
So at the cemetery, you have the option to review the events of last game, but I skipped it. I recorded it, but I decided to cut it out because they go into way too much detail. It takes like 20 minutes.
Oh my
It's
God.
ridiculous. So I skipped that. But I do want to mention that there is a scene included in it that we did not see in Yakuza Kiwami 1, which is Dojima's widow, who we'll meet in this game, basically confronting Kiryu. Why did we not see that in the game? Because it makes more sense now that we know who she is, right?
Yes. I mean, I thought I was completely blacked out for her part in the previous game because I was like, 1, who is this woman? 2, when did Dojima have a wife? And 3, how is she now so high up the chain?
Why would you cut that? It makes it so much more jarring when we suddenly meet her in this game.
I I had to point out that poor Nishiki, just his grave is right next to Yumi, so close yet not close at all. So cruel to put her and him next to each other.
Yeah, I question a lot of that. But,
And where's Reina's grave? She did so much.
Who cares about her?
Oh.
Who cares, Kathy? Forget about her.
Anyways, moving on to Terada, who's about to have a rough day.
Yeah. So he shows up, and he wants to go into the cemetery alone despite warnings of an Omi threat. So then we quickly cut back to Kiryu, who we hear him saying that he's choosing civilian life and raising Haruka right. That's going to change pretty quickly.
Right?
And as Terada approaches, he tells Kiryu that he plans to swear an oath with Chairman Goda of the Omi Alliance to avoid a war. And Kiryu gives him response and tries to walk away, not get involved, but Terada just keeps pressing him. Some Omi goons show up and attack, and for whatever reason, Kiryu decides it's his job to beat them up. And he tells Terada to leave with Haruka, but does he? No. So after the fight, what happens? He gets shot.
That man did not expect his day to go like this. 1, having to beg for help from Kiryu. 2, then getting shot. 3, then all his men die. 4, then he dies. So,
Yeah.
What a rough way to end things.
Of course, he does conveniently have a note to give to Kiryu so that he can take it to Chairman Goda. While in an ambulance, it appears that Terada does not make it. And then Haruka offers to stay at Sunflower for a while so Kiryu can do his Yakuza stuff. I don't know about you, but I think he agrees to that way too quickly.
Especially for a man who just said he'll give up his Yakuza life, the only thing he knows, to raise her right. And then immediately, 180. You know what, Haruka? You could stay by yourself, and you're probably going to get kidnapped because we know that's happened before.
He caved way too quick. I don't understand why he's doing this. Alright, so this is where we finally meet Yayoi Dojima, acting chairwoman, who reacts to Terada's letter. Kiryu still wants to deliver the letter despite the extreme risk, simply because it was Terada's last request. Because yeah, who gives a crap about Haruka? That's not your top priority at all.
Well, she has experience living as an orphan, so who cares if Kiryu dies?
Right.
She's a pro at it.
And then he feels like he needs to pay Nishiki's debts? That's his reasoning?
I don't get that.
Yeah, I said not good enough for me.
I get your brothers and everything, but it makes no sense.
Well, and Haruka is a debt from that situation. She lost her parent in that situation. Taking care of Haruka is part of paying your debt, too. This is why I was texting you when I was editing the gameplay. I was like, I don't like Kiryu in this game. He's pissing me off.
Yeah. I mean, he's already kind of frustrating me, and we're only 20 minutes into the game.
I know. And then Kiryu wants to find Daigo before he leaves so that he can help rebuild the Tojo clan. But Lady Dojima warns that Daigo is not what he used to be.
The Daigo we remember is a young, cute schoolboy who plays baseball, and we're about to see punk Daigo.
He does eventually track down Daigo, though, and begs him to come back to the clan. And it turns out that Kiryu kind of let Daigo down, so they fight about it, and then they have a nice fireside chat by the dumpster.
Of course, they have to fight it out, and of course, they find pretty much the only 2 benches in Tokyo.
There are no benches in Tokyo. There just are not. Ask my feet. They'll confirm. Daigo insists on going with Kiryu to the Omi, saying that he has his own score to settle, and says that they set him up 5 years ago.
I think deep down, he's just a very hurt child. I can't wait to see if he has a really good character arc, because this setup of meeting him in Y0 as a young boy to where he's about to get a little bit of redemption arc, and maybe this is me missing Nishiki too much, but I hope Daigo gets some kind of really cool not really a redemption arc, but a huge character growth moment.
All right, should we move on to Chapter 2, The Dragon of Kanzai?
Mm-hmm.
On their way to Omi HQ, Kiryu asks Daigo who he faced 5 years ago. Then he responds, second patriarch of the Goryu clan, Ryuji Goda. We learn that he is the son of the chairman they're about to go meet. It sounds like they were baiting the Tojo into invading Osaka, and Daigo fell for it and was arrested as a result.
Are we going to learn more? Because I feel like I'm slow with this. How would he have got thrown into jail for something? And, like, how do you fall for this trap? Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
I don't know if he's naive or what.
I think some of it is him being naive, but he was arrested simply for having a gun. So it was just like a setup to get him arrested. They get to Sotenbori. Daigo calls it a night, and Kiryu wanders around, finding himself at the Grand, where he eavesdrops that some Yakuza are hanging out there, and he figures that's maybe a good thing to figure out what's going on. And he leaves to figure out how to get into the VIP section. Any reactions to being back at the Grand, being back in Sotenbori?
I almost expected Majima to just pop out of somewhere and be like, haha, I'm back.
It's weird to go back. I like it, though. Now starts the first wild goose chase of needless gameplay about how to get in the VIP section. We meet some guy. I don't write his name now. It's like
I wrote Kurokawa.
Yeah, Kurokawa.
The purple guy.
Heretofore known as the purple guy. And he gets him into the VIP section, where Kiryu soon meets the Dragon of Kanzai. Kiryu introduces himself by tossing one of his men over the balcony onto the piano.
So he's pretty much our villain of this game, I'm assuming. And I can tell that he's one of those wants to be powerful but isn't. And it's just the complete opposite of all the main characters we have met in this game. I don't think we've seen anyone as power hungry as him. In his level. Like, yes, there's Dojima and everyone else. But at his age, at his level, he's probably like the biggest threat.
I kind of like him. He seems just like a brute, which I feel like you should see more of in the Yakuza, and we haven't really.
You do bring up a good point. So far, most of the top guys are all about strategic war, and he seems to be the guy who is going to be all about physical war.
Yeah, exactly. But they officially introduce themselves. His name is Ryuji Goda. He doesn't believe Kiryu at first, who says that he is Kazuma Kiryu. He says at some point during conversation, tonight Kamurocho is going to see the biggest damn fireworks show ever. Basically, his whole thing is he wants to become the one true dragon. So Kiryu has to die.
This guy's really overestimating himself. He's obviously heard of Kiryu and his skills, his history, and yet he still thinks he can take Kiryu on.
So at midnight, an explosion goes off on an upper level of the Millennium Tower. And then we see the detective guy that we saw at the start of the game in the flashback. He's watching the news broadcast and says, "So it's begun." Alright, so we quickly cut to the Kamurocho police station. Sudo is on the phone, and he indicates he thinks a foreign group could be involved in the explosion. And he ends the call by saying, Date-san is the only one capable of that. What that is, we don't know.
But I don't understand why he needs other people to help him. There can't be only one guy in the entirety of Japan who can help with the situation.
Well, should we keep flying through these intro chapters and go to Chapter 3? Chapter 3 is the Yakuza Huntress. We're back to Kiryu and Daigo as they head to Omi HQ. Then we're quickly introduced to Sayama, an organized crime detective in Osaka. Tokyo PD asks Osaka PD to protect Kiryu as he delivers Terada's message, so that they can ensure the deal is made and a war is avoided.
It feels like there's multiple parties invested in this potential war. You have Omi Alliance, you have Tojo Clan, then you have now the police. And it's a question is if the police are willing to step outside of their boundaries and start helping the Yakuza and Kiryu to prevent a war.
Also, there's like ramen bowls just on the floor in the police station. I couldn't stop looking at them. All I could see was the ramen bowls. My eyes were locked in. So Sayama asks for the assignment. Besho, the police chief, eventually agrees, but he was hesitant. She says with Kiryu in their custody, it's their ticket to investigate in Tokyo. And as a response, the chief says, "You aren't still hung up on the Tojo clan, are ya? Got some history."
I really do like the introduction of Sayama. Gives me Tang vibes from Sleeping Dogs. But I like how they establish and just wow you on the spot with her character, because then she goes to one of the other Yakuza members and takes the wooden sword, I guess, and just whacks the frame, and she's just unafraid. And this is why the chapter name is called Yakuza Huntress. Very fitting.
So Kiryu and Daigo are welcomed into Omi HQ, and they meet with Chairman Goda. Sorry, I just made myself laugh. I had in my notes in parentheses, literally a chairman.
Oh.
Because he's in a wheelchair.
You're so mean, Leah.
That's so bad. But really funny, too. So Goda introduces his officers. We have Takashima, who was Terada's sworn brother, and Sengoku, who looks like a pistachio.
He is a pistachio personified.
It's all I see when I look at him. Pistachios. We learn that there's tension between the chairman and his son, who we just met in the Grand. He has been stirring up trouble with the Tojo for some time, and they reference the Jingu incident. So that's from last game. So was the whole last game just Ryuji messing with the Tojo clan?
I don't know. I mean, it could be possible, but I feel like Ryuji doesn't have that much power and authority. Like the fact that he's not one of the guys sitting next to his father, but instead just out and about.
Because, yeah, they're making it sound like he kind of stirred that up. But I'm wondering if that's just like we didn't know we were going to make a sequel. Let's have him, have played a part in that. Because it seemed like Jingu was more like the instigator, right? Like he had motive. So I don't know. But he was involved in some way. And then Sengoku leaves at some point, and why does he walk like that? People do not know how to walk or run in this game.
No.
The waddle.
But in this entire interaction, Daigo is just sitting so casually. It's hilarious. I think we both made a comment about that.
Oh, I was laughing at the way Kiryu was sitting.
Oh. I was laughing at how Daigo's sitting.
Also, Kiryu wears black socks with white shoes?
I mean, we established from Y0 that Kiryu doesn't have much fashion sense.
Yeah. I mean, his belt is black, but I feel like then your shoes should be black. Something's not right. But in no scenario should you be wearing black socks with white shoes. That's just unacceptable to me.
But overall, in this interaction, though, I feel like if only Ryuji's dad could get a better control of his son, so many things could have been avoided. And if Ryuji really did have a hand in everything that happened in the previous game, if only his dad held him accountable, so much things could have been avoidable.
Speaking of Ryuji, right after Goda accepts Terada's message, Ryuji busts in with a bunch of men. He's against the alliance. He does not want it to happen. Daigo confronts him but gets trounced. And I hate it, but I also love that Ryuji says, take a nap or something. Basically, he's staging a coup, and he captures all of the men that we just met, except Sengoku, I guess, because he walked away. And then afterwards, of course, Kiryu has to fight off his men, and Daigo stays to fight Ryuji. Okay, during the fight, it's at 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 21 seconds. What is that noise? This is what sounds like a dog throwing up, so I have to show you.
How did that... It sounds like he's about to puke.
It does. It really tickles me. So after fighting off everybody, Kiryu catches up to the chairman outside. Daigo's not far behind, but he's not looking so good. Kiryu tells Daigo to leave with the chairman and go to Tojo HQ. while Kiryu faces Ryuji. However, their fight gets interrupted by the police. Ryuji runs off as Sayama arrests Kiryu.
What I'm wondering is what benefits would Ryuji get if there was a war besides like power, reputation, probably monopoly? I feel like there's some other component that we're missing.
I don't think so. I think it's just those and wanting to be
Okay.
the one true dragon.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was saying about this is the first just like straight up thug, you know, who just wants those thug things like power and status.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of refreshing to have a villain that's actually that simple. Should we start in on chapter 4, the last chapter of this episode?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 4 is The Four Kings of Omi. Date's back. He is met by Inspector Kawara, who we've seen a few times already, so now we have a name for him, but Date calls him Killer Kawara.
He's the guy we saw from the beginning, like that 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And then we get a pseudo-Date reunion.
Mm-hmm. So in this meeting with Pseudo, Date, and Kawara, there is also a fourth man present. He is Kurahashi, Chief of Foreign Affairs. He and Pseudo say that they think an Asian mafia is involved in the explosion. They suspect Ryuji of heading up the Terada hit based on the phone call that we saw at the start of the game, but they need to ID the other man. So they ask Date to get close to Kazuki from Stardust, as Ryuji met with him the one time that he was in Kamurocho. And they say that Kazuki is actually Korean.
Okay, so what? Sorry, I just don't understand why they're making it such a big deal to have the Yakuza working with like the Triad, or what's the equivalent of Yakuza in Korea?
I think they say mafia in this
They
game.
still call it mafia? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's a big deal, and maybe we'll learn more down the road.
So moving right along, we're back to Kiryu, who is cuffed in Sayama's car, and she explains that his arrest was just a cover to get him into protective custody. However, she's doing a horrible job so far because someone is able to take 2 shots at Kiryu, who does not get hit somehow, but Sayama does.
Kiryu tried to cover her, and yet she still got shot, and it's a flesh wound at the shoulder. It's not fatal. Calm down, everyone.
And it's in the one shoulder that was like 100% covered by Kiryu. And then we got mad because she tells him to find a bar called Aoi, and he leaves her to go find it. And we were like, what are you doing? When he gets to the bar, the woman there, Tamio, was like, why didn't you bring her with you?
And then so he has to go back and bring her. But keep in mind, she's still in the car, and right outside of the bar is a car parked. So we know cars could drive through there. Yet he still tries to piggyback ride her and try not to jostle her as he runs back.
Well, now everyone's at the bar. And Kiryu will soon get a call from Daigo, who tells him that he and Chairman Goda are driving to Kamurocho. Kiryu decides to leave. He does return to the bar where he learns that Tamio is Sayama's adoptive mother, and Sayama is also an orphan. Small world. 2 orphans, 1 room.
Maybe they're siblings.
After Sayama wakes up, they discuss the attempted hit, and she says it wasn't Ryuji's style and that the bullet is smaller than a usual rifle bullet. So she thinks that they were not shooting to kill, which I guess explains the flesh wound, but doesn't explain the rest of the issues we have with the shooting. Kiryu wants to figure out who he's dealing with, and Sayama asks him to take the bullet to an information dealer. After another wild goose chase, we eventually get to the dealer, who tells Kiryu that the bullet is from the Takashima family. So that's Terada's sworn brother. How do you tell that from a bullet?
Yeah, I don't know how. And especially if it's like outsourced hitman, then you really can't tell who it's from.
But we then cut to Takashima on the phone, and it sounds like Sayama was correct. They did not intend to kill. They just wanted Kiryu to trace the bullet back to them. But basically, they're just trying to get Kiryu freaked out, I think.
What was the point of making Kiryu think it's one family and not the other? That if you doing this is just to kind of incite a war, it coming from anyone's family is going to do that. Like, you don't need to specifically pin it down to Takashima's family.
Didn't Ryuji just capture Takashima?
Oh, yeah. That's actually a really great point.
But now he's in an interrogation room at the police station, where apparently you can just make a phone call in there too.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Why is Kiryu not thinking about that?
Lots of questions. But in this interrogation room, he's being interrogated by Besho, and somehow Takashima knows about Sayama.
Everyone would know who Sayama is because she's part of Osaka PD. So I don't understand why they're making it such a big deal.
I think it's the fact that he knew that she's protecting Kiryu.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Kiryu, he asks the information dealer about Takashima's plans, but that'll cost him 300 grand, and Kiryu says, I'm not paying that. So where does he go? Kurokawa, purple guy. And his information eventually leads Kiryu on another wild goose chase to gather some blackmail that he can use to get information out of the information dealer. We learn that Takashima has connections to government officials, and that's kind of all we get out of it. And as he's telling this to Kiryu, he gets a call. Kiryu now has 100 million yen hit on his head. So they try to kill him, as you would. Kiryu fights them off and then beats information out of the information dealer. And we discover that the Sengoku family initiated the bounty, and that's Pistachio Man.
So it's coming at him from multiple ways. You have the Takashima's family, and you also have the Pistachio Dude family. We know that it seems like the Goru family, so Ryuji's dad, is on board because he's willing to go with Daigo to Tojo clan, but it seems like not everyone is with him.
It seems like nobody's with him at this point. It's confusing, but my next note is that we learn some more confusing backstories. So should we just get into it?
Mm-hmm.
So we see Sengoku talking about Kiryu's escape from the hit and talking about the Goryu clan. He then opens a trunk with 1 billion and says, make it rain over Kamurocho. To be honest, I'm not sure if that ever comes back. I don't remember money falling out of the sky later in the game. Kiryu then heads back to the bar, and as he approaches, he decides to eavesdrop on an argument between Sayama and Tamio about her parents. Tamio says they have nothing to do with the Yakuza, but she won't tell her who her parents were or anything about them, so Sayama says she's going to keep following Kiryu because he's part of the Tojo clan. Kiryu? I think he throws a can in the hallway to make a little bit of noise to warn them he's coming, and then he enters pretending like he didn't hear any of that.
Which is very gentlemanly of him to do so. The moment he enters the door, Sayama's so aggressively mean to him. And it's not the first time. I think previously where he was going to go out and explore, even though she told him to go look up information, she's threatening him to jail if he skips. And I'm like, calm down, lady. This man saved your life.
Yeah, I don't know what Kiryu's doing to indicate to her that she needs to try to control him, because it seems, like he's cooperating. But then Sayama gets a call from the chief, Besho, wanting to talk to Kiryu. He tells Kiryu that Daigo and Chairman Goda have been kidnapped, and that the kidnappers were speaking a foreign language, or with a foreign accent, and that the plates on the getaway car were from Kamurocho.
What is happening in Kamurocho that it seems like everyone's targeting it?
I don't know. This game, I mean, obviously we covered 4 chapters very quickly because it's just a lot of setup. But they throw a lot at us really fast.
Mm-hmm.
A coup in the Omi Alliance. We've got foreign mafia. We've got Daigo's beef from the past. We've got other shit from 20 years ago. We've got Sayama's mystery parents.
So many characters. And then we also have, in the back of our minds, fear for Haruka to be kidnapped again.
They know where she's gonna be. Sunflower is no secret. It's a lot to digest.
But hey, we have it under 50 minutes, and it's going to be a lot shorter when we trim it down.
Exactly. 2 hours of gameplay resulted in 50 minutes of recording, which is about half as much as a normal one would be. So that tells you how much fighting and just running around there was in these chapters.
Yep. And with that, I'm going to count us off Audacity on 1, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to send in any questions, comments, or game suggestions. You can find all our contact info on our website, replayreviewspod.com, or contact us directly through our site.
Did we completely miss something? Are we way off the mark? Or you just want us to take a deeper look at anything from the game? We'll tackle any topics you all want to hear in our season wrap-up episode.
We also have a Reddit where we discuss anything we're curious about. Go take a look and let us know what you're thinking. Our theme music is Condemned by Eggy Toast. They'll play you out, and we'll be back next week.